So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining me from. So, over here, we have a question on Quora which says, how do you deploy a website on a server? So, someone actually gave a comment over here saying, deploying a website on a server is an important part of web development, which is very true. There are a number of ways to deploy websites, but the most common way is to use a web host. So a web host provides the server space and bandwidth needed for hosting a website. Once you have chosen a web host, you need to choose the type of server your website will be deployed on. There are two main types of servers, which are Windows servers and Linux servers, also very true. Choose a reliable and trustworthy web host, and they will further assist you with the deployment of your website. So actually, he has already said everything. He has given us a proper introduction of how a website should be hosted. And he has already rightly said it that there are two types of servers which will either fall as a Windows server or a Linux server. So we are actually going to be doing a live demonstration of how to go about this particular problem, or should I say this particular challenge. So let me get my screen ready for work. So first of all, the first thing I have to do is that we have to get our website as a file, right? In order for us to do that, of course, if we are getting it from GitHub, you have to download it, you have to clone it. Or if we are getting from maybe a site like what I have over here, I actually got it from a free template site, so I downloaded it straight up. So you have to have your website as a file. Then after that, the next thing you also have to do is that you have to get your AWS ready, like your AWS interface. It must be ready, and this is it. I have my AWS interface ready, and currently I'm in my EC2 instance. So this is where we spin up servers on AWS. So we'll be using two services in AWS, and the first one we are going to be using is the S3. The S3 service actually allows us to store images, or rather, not images, it helps us to store objects, it helps us to store files, So we will be putting this file into our S3, then we will be calling it into our EC2 server. Then we will also use a web server. We need a web server in order for us to host our website on it. So, and the web server we will be using is the Apache. You can also use Nginx, but we'll be using Apache today. So after that, you'll be able to view your website. So those are the process simply that we will be passing through in the next couple of minutes. So let's go straight to work. So as I said earlier, the first thing we have to do is to get our S3 working. So let me go to S3. Fine. Okay, we are in our S3. So we have to create a bucket, and then let's call our bucket test bucket or testing bucket, because your naming must be unique when it comes to creation of buckets. So testing bucket 005. That's what we will call it on the region of US East. You can choose any region that you want. The object ownership, I'll leave it at recommended. Then block all public access. I'll remove this. I want my access to actually be public. Then I will acknowledge, and then leave all this at default. Then choose create bucket. So I actually now have created the bucket, and this is it. This is what we've created. But we won't just stop here. We are going to go into it, and then we have to upload our website, like the website file. So in order for us to do that, let me go back to my, yeah, this is it. So let me just copy a file, or rather drag the file, or drag it into my S3. So right now you can see the file. This is it, pure media, or rather pure media thing. So this is the zip file, and then what we have to do now is what, upload. So it takes a few minutes depending on the size of the website, but this should take a few minutes. It's very little, about 5 MB. So when we are done with this, the next thing we have to do is that we have to make sure that this website is downloadable. We have to make sure it's downloadable. And for us to do that, first of all, we need to click on the website. Okay. Okay, fine. So as you can see over here, you can see the URL. If you click on this URL right now, it's going to give you an error. As you can see, access denied, and all that. So that is because it is not yet public. That is why we are getting. So whenever it is public, we find out that you are able to download it. So let me remove this and then go back to, yeah, I'm there. So the next thing I have to do, let me take this down. Let me take this down. Let me close this. Right. So I have to go to permissions. So this is where I'm going to make it public. As you can see, they said what? Over here it says, let me move this. So over here it says permission overview, access can be public. So we don't actually want this access to that. We don't want this object that it can be public. We actually want it public. So in order for us to do that, we have to go to bucket policy, where we have to change the policy of this particular bucket. So it takes us to a place where we can edit, and we have to put some specific commands over here. And in order for us to do that, you can go online, look for policy examples or S3 policy examples, and when you check on it, you will get a page like this. When you search, just look for this bucket policy example. Then you get a page like this. So scroll down. Remember, we are looking for how we can actually make our bucket accessible, make it public. So this is what we'll be looking for: granting read-only permission to any anonymous user. So as you can see, we are granting read permission. We want everybody to see. So we will be copying this list of commands, and then I think I can turn this down now, and then we paste it over here. Paste, fine. So then there's one more thing we have to do. We will copy this. Yeah, we will copy this, and then we will replace it over here. So we've made our changes. Now we have to save. Voila. So as you can see, publicly accessible. So right now, it is not saying it can be public. Now it's telling us it is what? It is public. So that is what we want to see. So we go back to our buckets, and then we click on testing buckets. Then we click on our, on our file, and then it takes us here. So if we click on this URL once more, you find that now it will be downloadable. So as you can see, it's downloadable. So we are on the right track. So from here, the next thing we have to do now is to go to our EC2. So let's create an EC2. First off, let me come here to service, then open in a new tab. Okay. So this is my EC2 space. As you can see, EC2 experience. So I click on instances. I don't have any instance currently, so I have to create one. So let's call this test website. Test website, right? Then we are going to be using an Ubuntu. Remember what the contribution the fellow mentioned. It said something about it's either you choose a Windows or you choose a Linux server. So this time we are going to be using a Linux server. I love Linux servers actually. They're actually fast and for me they're easy to use. So we will be choosing Ubuntu, which is a Linux distribution, and that is where we'll be creating our server. And then a key pair, I have a key pair already generated. Then I will allow HTTPS, I will allow HTTP. And what again, I can leave this at default, not adding any volume, and then launch instance. So we have to wait, fine. So our server has been created successfully. Let's view all instances. We have our website currently running, or rather, we have a server. We have our server currently running. So a pending, okay? So let's wait for it to turn running. We need this pending to turn running. So while this is going on, the next thing we have to do after that is that we have to make sure that we can SSH into this particular server. So right now it is running. I go to connect, I go to SSH clients, then I take this. Right now I want to connect. So we will be able to connect this way. Yeah, and I'm in my server currently. So the first thing I have to do is that I have to do a sudo update, sudo apt update, right? So I'm updating my server VM. Maybe if you use a Microsoft Azure, you know, instead of calling it an EC2 server, you can call it a VM in Microsoft Azure. So yeah, so we are done with updating. I can clear this. Then the next thing I have to do is that I have to install Apache, which is the web server we will be using. So we'll be using sudo apt install, what that's wrong. Sudo apt install Apache 2, right? So yes. All right. Yeah. So after installing our Apache, the next thing that we have to do is that we have to navigate into our Apache, and then we have to put the files into it. Don't mind me. That's my baby. My baby is a bit everywhere, so don't mind us. Noise or sound or whatever. So let me see. Let me clear this. Fine. Then as I said earlier, we are going to have to put our files into our Apache. So in order to navigate into our Apache, we use CD. But of course, before I go further, one of the ways to check if your Apache has been installed, that's if you've cared to do that. Apache 2 version. So as you can see, oh, this is not divine. Okay, another way of checking it is with Apache 2. Okay, so it pretty says the same thing, but however, it still says it that server version. So this is what I'm actually looking for. So it means that Apache has been installed. Please ignore this. You can ignore this one here. So this is what we are looking for. You know, Apache 2.452 for Ubuntu server builds and all that. So Apache is installed quite all right. Then the next thing we have to do now is to put our file into it. But first, we have to navigate into our Apache environment. So for us to do that, we use /etc/Apache 2, right? Let's go into it. Let's see what's inside. Fine. So the next place, oh, sorry. This is actually another thing I'm doing. This is another thing. So clear. So we want to go into where we can, it's not into our Apache we are really going to. Where we are looking for is where we can input those files. So in order for us to do that, let me do CD to go to root directory. Then I'll go to CD var www/et/html. Yeah. So yeah, this is it. So this is where I'm going to, and as you can see ls, you can see an index here, index.html. So you might be like, what is index.html? What is it doing? Now, let me show you what it is doing. So if you go to your instance, go to your server, and then copy this IP address. When you do that, just visit it. As you can see, Apache is installed. So this is another way of actually knowing that your Apache has been installed. So what you want to do now is that you don't want to see Apache default page. This is only showing you that yes, that particular directory, which is var/ww/html, actually works, and it is there. So right now we can see that it works, it is present, and then we are good to go. So what we have to do now is to copy our files into this space so that we won't be having this. And for us to do that, we won't just be copying directly. So what we have to do is that we need our S3, the URL from our S3. We actually need it right now. So let's go to our S3. S3. No, this is not it. S3, where are you? Where are you? For a minute. I think I've lost my S3. Okay, it's over here. So fine, this is S3. So this URL, we will be copying it and we will be pasting it here. But before we paste it, we have to do a wget. So wget is a command which you use in extraction. So wget, find the URL, enter, find. See, you can see success. So let me do ls. Oh, there's something wrong. Could it be because I didn't use sudo? Okay, let me try sudo. Sudo wget this, and then enter. Good. So it's because I didn't use the sudo. So ls. So as you can see, this is a pure media 10 zip. So this is what we are trying to say when we are saying we needed to copy our files. So this is the file over here, right from our S3. So the next thing we have to do is that we have to unzip this, and let me do that right now. So unzip. Let me use a sudo because I don't want any errors to be thrown. Or let me just, aside from using, let me just take a super user privilege, sudo su, so I can be working from root. Then unzip this particular file, because of course there are a lot of files in it. Oh, it flags an error. Now, errors is part of it. Troubleshooting is what we do all times, like all the time. As a system administrator, as a DevOps engineer, as a network engineer, you troubleshoot all the time. But this is not actually a problem. So what it's trying to tell us is that we do not have the unzip command, or rather, we do not have the unzip package being installed in this particular server. So let me clear so that it's less messy. And then I have to install unzip. So apt install unzip, right? So as you can see, it's installing the package. And right now, let me clear. Right now, if we try it again, having to unzip the file, it works. So let me clear, and then let's see ls. So as you can see, this was what we had, and right now it has unzipped it to give us this. So the next thing we have to do, because there are actually files, we are looking for an HTML file. As you can see, we are in the directory of HTML. So Apache at this point will have to read the index.html file. If you remember the other time when we had this, let me show it to you. The other time when we had this, yeah, when we had this, it was reading this because this was our index.html file. We had everything here. So that is what we will be doing now. We will be saying, okay, fine, we don't want this anymore. We want our new index.html file, which contains the image and all the displays of our website. So let me go back there. So in order for us to do that, we use a command mv, which is move. Move what? We are going to be moving this, everything within this slash star and then dot. So let's see it again. As you can see, we have all this you can see over here was in this particular media term, pure media term. So right now we have moved all the files from within this particular folder to our HTML. So right about now, what we have to do is to start our Apache. So in order for us to do that, we have to use service. Okay, I'm taking root user, so I don't need sudo. So service Apache 2 start. Right? So the service has started. Then we can now test. So let's do it again. Run this same IP address. Wow. So we are having our website running currently. So this is what we are trying to say, and you know, it actually looks good. Yeah. So this is what we've taken this last 15 minutes or so to talk about having to deploy your website. So if you want to actually do this, I've actually done this for free. And maybe in the next video after this, let me just call it the part 2 of this video. I'm going to do something more in such a way that I'm going to map this particular IP address. We don't want to see this IP address. You know, you can't give your users 54.196.8.159 as a web address. They will always forget. Even I would even forget. So we have to map it to a DNS so that we can always call that DNS and it routes us to this particular page. So thank you very much for taking our time. And once again, my name is Alex Michael. Do well to subscribe. I'm very glad about that, and share to as many people that will actually need this, because we actually face this, especially those that are preparing for certifications in AWS, and some people also who want to also have the skill. This is very good. So do have a lovely time. Bye.